And I'll just do that like I know what it.
No. It's what it is I was looking up like Hemmingway music. Like
Oh,
what
okay.
would be him like 1920s jazz, Josephine Baker, and one of the things. What's that roaring sound? Do you hear the roaring sound?
No, I do not.
Oh my God. I think that there's just something up with my headphones. Because, like, we were doing a show yesterday about the Bhagavad Gita, and the whole time I was like, do you guys hear the echo? Do you hear the echo? And they were like, nope, sound fine, keep rolling. And I'm like, so I can hear my voice like a split second after I say everything, but no one else could. So I
Yeah.
just seemed like it was maddening. It was really maddening. And right now I hear like waves. Oh my God.
I don't hear
It's
waves. That sounds like, yeah, that very personal to you.
all kinds of things are possible these days.
I mean, that could be anything, Shelly.
It really could. It really could. Do you hear the noises? Nope, Shelly, still don't hear them. In fact, we'll let you know if there's noises so you don't have to keep asking. How about that? How about that? All right. All right. So since I talked to you, mainly what I've done today, before this episode of Reads and Weeds, and talking you into doing it,
Which was
I
smooth.
I walked around town today mostly, drinking coffee.
That's
just,
fantastic.
just cruising around. Well, first I donated plasma, then I walked and got coffee, talking to you. Came home for a little while. Was like, that wasn't enough coffee. So I called places like, are you guys open for coffee? You can't just assume.
Yeah.
Place right down the street from me had coffee, so I drank that coffee and walked around. Um, and I'm not even going to ask about the wave car driving sound because I know it's not there. I know you can't hear it, and it's fine. I'm not worried about it. Okay. What I am going to do though is find this music. Let me see here. Where did all my tabs go? Dear God. All right, I've already screwed everything up. Maybe these headphones are too sensitive or something. Maybe my computer is too sensitive for this mic. Let me just check one thing.
Okay.
What's this? What does this do? Hello, can you still hear me?
I can still hear you.
Okay. Oh, great. Maybe it's just turning down the volume on my headphones. No, it's still there. It's okay. One day we'll be back in the studio and things will be back to normal.
Well, I feel like my sound is always bad because
You sound fine too.
I sound fine. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's see if I can do it this way. Let's see. So this would be a great way to start. Oh, I kind of just want to listen to this, really.
Sounds
Really
great.
good. It's only 15 minutes long. Let's just do it.
Sounds awesome.
George Gershwin, everybody. George Gershwin, give him a hand. Having a nice hand for the cats on the stage. I've got a drinking jar.
Oh, I'm so glad you're having a cocktail.
Well, that's another thing I did today. While I was walking around with my coffee, I walked to the liquor store, and the lady was outside with her mask down around her chin smoking. And because I was there, she had to go in. She just
Put the
started
mask
smoking.
on.
No, stay, smoke. I'll wait. I'm not doing anything. And but I was like, I've been going Ernest Hemmingway as an alcoholic, writing about alcoholics, and I should drink. Is it right to drink? Is it appropriate? I thought yes, but I would have made like a martini or a mojito or something. But that's just
I
too
don't
many
think they
ingredients.
cared. I think they were doing shots and a lot of things straight up with soda.
Sure.
Yeah.
Brandy and
Ugh.
soda, will you, chap? People
Mm.
drink brandy. I don't know if I've ever had brandy.
I think we drank the brandy that was underneath my mom's
Well, sure.
microwave.
well, sure. You drink the brandy under the microwave when you're like 15.
Yeah.
Hello. So yeah, we're doing another live Reads and Weeds right now. This might be the very first one that goes on the YouTube channel.
Oh my God.
Because we've been trying to do the YouTube channel, but the recordings keep being dicks. They just vanish and or get corrupted or whatever.
Oh,
But so
that's
emergency screening of The Sun Also Rises. We had to get it. We had to talk about it. Like the truth had to come out because I was up in Cadillac during quarantine and finished a book, needed another book. Somebody had this one. I started reading it. I'm like, oh yeah, classic. It is a quintessential novel of the lost generation, one of Hemingway's masterpieces, and a classic example of the spare but powerful writing style. And I'm like, ooh, can't wait, right? They're really selling it. And then I don't know if I agree with this.
Yeah.
So I'm calling a little bit of bullshit on the masterpiece theory with the caveat of being forgiving. He was a veteran. He was 25. It was his first
It was
novel.
1926. Yeah,
sure.
It was his first novel.
He'd already had like, what's going on here? What's that?
Your part? It looks great from here. 3,000 miles away, it looks fantastic.
It does?
Mm-hmm.
It does.
It's like you have a lot of body.
I've been working on it. That's the main thing I've been doing in quarantine is trying to increase my hair volume.
We should definitely talk about what people look like on the radio. Your two grays, though, look fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
Dude, they look so good.
I do. I look good.
You've been so gifted. It's kind of witchy. I like it.
What do you mean? My hair?
Yeah, your hair.
Oh, God.
I really like it.
Those of you who are listening, I have a basic brown side part. Like
she is like a tall, like classic Thelma from Scooby-Doo with more of a brunette.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Do you know what's funny, Kris, because you've known me the longest, is, when I was growing up in South Carolina, I was tan and blonde. And
I was blonde too as well.
Yeah. And now I'm white and brown. And so when people from here see old pictures, they're like, oh, you used to be blonde? And I'm like, oh, yeah. And then when people from Boiling Springs see me, they're like, when did your hair get so dark? I'm like, oh, yeah, we don't have sunshine in Michigan. No. And when we do, everyone's like, oh, we would sprint outside.
The sun's out.
And we chase it around.
Yeah.
Have you heard? The sun is here. Cancel your plans. Like, that's what I felt like today. Like, I can't do anything today because the sun's out. It's not raining anymore. Everything's flooded in Michigan. 2 dams just broke in Midland. The park where I go for my walks is almost like there's ducks and fish and shit where the running path usually is. So today it was just like a normal sunny day, and everybody's just kind of like, "Hey, how are you, pal?" Like our yard work.
Yeah,
super
life's
exciting.
great.
Mhm.
That is exciting.
It really is. So I had coffee. Ooh, other exciting news since I talked to you earlier was I got to be on hold with not only the Michigan Unemployment Insurance Agency for a real long time, and then that call just dropped, but also the Brother Printer customer service line was also about a 20-minute on-hold call that then also just dropped. It was just like, goodbye.
That sounds planetary. That,
It was
I think
amazing.
I think that may have been preordained in your
Like,
astrological
look
chart.
at you, silly girl, trying to get things done, trying to
No,
fix
you're not
that
making
printer.
calls today.
No, no,
No,
no.
you're not making calls.
Look at this. I'm going to show you another visual thing for the radio. Behind me, if you're
Oh.
watching, if you're not watching, there's a page out of a coloring book, an adult coloring book that's like an elephant balancing on a ball, and I colored that with colored pencils, and it was like the achievement of a lifetime. It was
That is
really
awesome, though.
beautiful.
It looks good.
Oh, it looks really good, doesn't it? It was like just a
It
big coloring
does.
page out of an adult coloring book. And it was like a breakup art project. I'm like,
Damn.
this is going to be the most beautiful thing ever. And I was right.
Is it metaphorical for the breakup?
No, it was
No.
just me sitting in the
The
floor.
elephant precariously balanced. The
Yeah.
psychedelic elephant precariously balanced on the
Never forgets
somewhat
anything.
cagey looking ball.
Right, right.
No.
It was, I'm too big for this ball. That's the story.
Okay, good.
That's it. That was I know how to learn my breakup lessons, you know. That's what I said in therapy. What was my lesson from that breakup? It was, I'm too big for
This
this
ball's
ball.
too small for me. This ball is not
I mean,
big
I
enough.
can balance on it and I'll look fucking good doing it. But it's not like I'm trying to balance on top of this weak ass ball.
Yeah, totally.
Shelly
Yeah.
hasn't drank in a while, and it's like half of a red stripe, and I'm all like, woo!
Dude, I always have this dilemma on this freaking podcast because I get down to almost needing a second drink. I'm like, what am I gonna do? It's a real crisis.
Well, I'm not a scientist, but what I see is two clear options. One, stop drinking. Two, take a break and make another one. But really, other than that, we have to really. I don't know
Into the
why you keep
book.
interrupting me because we got to get into this
Yeah.
book.
Yeah, let's get
Ernest
into this
Hemingway.
book.
Ernest Hemingway grew up in Illinois.
Hmm.
Maybe had a controversial relationship with his mother. Used to hang out in Petoskey. Was his ambulance driver in the war. Wrote this book in 1925, 26, and
Yeah.
and here's what I think. So when I read it, I'm like ready to be moved. You know, I'm ready to have truth spoken
Oh,
to me.
because of all the banter about it.
Because this is a poignant look at the disillusionment and angst of the post-World War I generation. The novel
Yeah.
introduces two of Hemingway's most unforgettable characters. Unforgettable characters?
Which
Jake
one?
Barnes and
Jake?
Brett. Jake and
Oh,
Brett.
Jake and Brett.
Unforgettable?
Okay.
They sound like every forgettable person I've ever met at a bar. Where I'm like,
That's true, but it was 1926, and it was like, and they
yeah,
were expats, you know, women were apparently having a renaissance, sexual renaissance, or
yeah.
I don't know if you can call it
The
a renaissance if it's the first time it's ever happened.
Well, it wasn't the first time it ever happened. It was the first time, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but so I read this. I went and looked up like
Oh,
criticisms and praise of this
good.
book,
Yeah.
and people were like, Brett was the first truly modern woman. You could put that same character in a novel today, and she would be just as modern. And I'm like,
No.
don't you mean
No.
boring and weak? Like, is that what you
No.
mean? Like, modern woman? Is it fucking with the sound? This is bothering me. Is there something fuzzy on top of my head? More visual elements, listeners.
Keep up. You got to stay with us.
I'm wearing a blue t-shirt and my hair is long and brown. The book is orange and yellow. Um, and I'm drinking a Red Stripe. And you know what? It's a great
Vodka.
session beer. It's a great
Mm.
session beer. Out
Yeah,
of a
so
ball jar. Out
you
of a
are.
ball
It's
jar.
super hip. Super hip.
Well, no, here's what I've realized is I have too many jars. That's just the truth. Like, because what I do is I go, oh, that jar of beets, I'm going to save that jar. That jar of olives, I'm going to save that jar. That jar that my friend gave me that bean soup in, I'm going to save that jar because I think I'm going to, like, my toothbrushes are in a jar, my dishcloths are in a jar, I drink out of jars. And, like, but still, even with all the jars in use, there's a ton of extra jars around my house.
Shocking. That shocks me.
Right
Yeah.
in my view, there's like magic markers in a jar. There's my beer in a
I
jar.
love
There's
jars.
like
They're so satisfying. Like the
they
weight and they're,
are.
yeah, they are.
Fuck plastic cups.
That's so true.
I want jars and I want weird coffee mugs. So there. Cute. I'm gonna get rid of any coffee mug that doesn't look like. Anyway, here's what's going on in this book. Some characters are introduced. They aimlessly travel and drink and harm one another as far as I can
You know,
tell.
here's what I was really trying
What
to like
else
place
is
it because
there?
I was like, trying to put it in context because I remembered I read this book and I studied this book in 20 I want to say 2013, like the last summer I traveled for my MFA, and we were in Scotland. I had a fabulous teacher, and I know
Oh,
we had to read this book, and we talked about this whole lost generation and all the people that Hemingway, all the people in the group that were hanging out in Paris,
it was a cool
um,
group.
and um, Gertrude Stein, you know, and her whole influence. And you know, I do remember talking about like keeping in mind that this was like his acclaim, the sparse writing is this like such a big deal because it was like one of the first modern. They called it modern because there wasn't all this description and flowery language. Although I have to say, and I know he's gotten these critiques before, there are some horrible sentences, and it does make you
Great.
wonder.
I want you to quote them.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Okay.
Um, but I think my point is even F. Scott Fitzgerald, when he read the first draft, like came back to him and said, "Dude, yeah, you've got to like cut down on the meta. You've got to cut down on the telling. You got to show more." Like it was kind of like
Do you
this
really
base.
think F. Scott Fitzgerald said cut down on the meta?
He didn't say cut down on the meta, but I'm just using those terms because of we're in 2020. But that's basically what he said. Like you're inserting yourself too much, which the I think one of the few, if not the only one of the meta moments that Hemingway keeps is in the first chapter, if that's what you want to call it. The first section of
Describe a meta
exposition and
moment.
dialogue.
Okay.
The moment is he like he inserts himself as the author. He like turns the camera for a couple of sentences on himself as the writer, and then he flips it back.
Okay.
But most of those got taken out apparently, and he took whole sections of the story out, which means you sort of jump in time. I mean, that was a very big deal to leave things out and create that space for readers to fill in, which I know we've talked about. So
Do you mean going? You mean not talking about the war? Is that what you mean?
no, like in the storyline, like it'll just make a jump. You know,
Right.
it
Like
is.
it's tomorrow all of a sudden.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's very. So I actually, this was my whole point. I'm rambling, but and this is a bad comparison, but I'm just going to throw it out there. But it's kind of it makes me think of our generation when like the first reality television came out, like when
Yeah.
Road Rules first came out,
What
how it was
about real world?
our real world, same thing. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. It's like we're going to take these clips of people just being indulgent in their neurosis,
Jane. Yeah.
right? And we're going to, some people are going to call that fascinating and an incredible experiment and cutting
Yes.
edge and
Yes.
edgy. and it's going to define a generation, which you can argue reality TV has definitely defined that generation and beyond.
Yep.
And continues on today. And I actually found myself reading, as bad as some of the sentences are, which we can get into. I found myself actually having to credit him a little bit, even though I want to bash his face in. I had to credit him in a little bit because it may have been, I think he worked really hard on it, actually, and I think he did create something. I saw threads of J.D. Salinger in the text.
Okay.
I saw the influence for sure. It's like J.D. Salinger picked up on that meta-ness and the I narrative and follow me as I unfold how my life is fucked up, kind of. Of course, J.D. Salinger nailed it and did a like actually picked up that thread and brought it to its absolute total fruition if I wanted to take that leap. But yeah, so I had to credit him with that, and I actually had to credit Hemmingway in our modern day sort of reality television. We're so obsessed with the ordinary being bigger, and like that's our human. This girl sleeping around and getting drunk, and this group of guys playing out the masculine battle.
It's an episode of the Kardashians.
Yeah.
It's an episode of
or a
the
season.
Kardashians.
It's like a season. It's like an eight episode season.
Sure. The Sun Also Rises is a precursor to like any story that's like that person is sitting in the little room with the camera going like, so then I think we went to a couple more bars, but then like that one guy, I think he was gay, but like he went home with us, I think, but then she got real sick and then now we're having coffee.
And then there's like one or two people actually having emotions. And thoughts. Who are
I'm miserable, darling.
Who are constantly butting up against like the other layers of personalities that are and everybody's gonna splinter off. You're just waiting for it.
Sure. It's just like who's gonna be left awake, drunk enough to hook up.
But man, I'm telling you, some of the sentences I wrote one down. It was
give it to me.
Hold on. I hate to say on the radio. He had married on the rebound. So there's, especially in the first I feel like it did pick up and get better, but I do feel like it was somewhat intentional, but just intentional. This sentence, he had married on the rebound. There's so many has-beens and wases and passive tense sentences and all the raving about him being sparse. And I'm just going to assume that in 1926, we hadn't gotten the notes about getting rid of passive verbs. Like he should have just said, he married on the rebound, but instead it's he had married on the rebound. It just creates this like weird telling tone. And there's a bunch of sentences like that. And they, all these years later, that from 1926, almost a century later, actually 6 years shy of a century later, it's just like, weird. It's just like, dude, I just want to bash your face in every time. It for me, as in 2020 reading that, it just hurts me so much. But it's also a great exercise in when you talk about modern being sparse. When you think that this was what sparse was and this was minimalism and that's what made it modern to where we are today, that's kind of a fun. Gotta give the guy some kudos for that. He also gave all the royalties to his wife, even though they divorced.
He had a bunch of wives, though. Which one?
Hadley.
Okay.
Yeah, Hadley Richardson.
There was some wives in there.
Well, he had a son with Hadley, and I think he was actually crazier about her, but I think he fucked it up by sleeping around.
Wow.
But wrote this book toward the end of their gig and he swore that when he sold it, she would get all the royalties. And actually when he sold the movie rights, she got all the royalties for that too. I mean, dude, that's Wow.
Yeah. Well, you know what I think is like, if you did you watch Girls, the show Girls?
I've seen enough episodes, but I have not watched the
Okay.
whole thing.
Okay, but you know what it's about, right?
I
And in
do.
one of the very first episodes, there's Lena Dunham. She's busting in on
Peeing?
her parents.
She's
No, she's
peeing?
busting in on her
Okay.
parents, and she's
All right.
going, but she does pee a lot. But
She pees a lot.
she's busting in on her parents, and I think she's tripping or something. And she's
That
going
sounds
like,
right.
"I think I'm the voice of a generation. I think I'm the voice of my generation." And she goes, or like a voice of some generation. Like she's trying to explain to them like she's a very important writer and she needs some more money. And even though she got fired, she's tripping.
Yeah.
And it's a brilliant scene. And when you talk about meta, like the reason why Girls hit is because it's like these are these people in this time, in this era when women are like this and computers are like this and startups are like this and people get rich for no good reason and it's weird,
Yeah.
And a lot of the comedy is this very specific comedy where if you're not in that era or that scene and you don't know anybody in that era or that scene, you're not gonna get it. You're not gonna
Right.
get why that is so funny.
Totally.
So when I was reading this, I was thinking, if you were post-war roaring 20s around 25 years old,
Yeah.
that
Totally.
means that your life up to now has been just kind of fucked. Like you've been a
Bad.
teenager
Everybody's
during
dying.
prohibition, everybody's dying, Spanish flu, like everything's
Yeah.
crazy in the world. People are dying in piles and
Yeah.
young men, are just getting slaughtered and everybody's hungry and broke and like they're like, you know what? We're gonna start drinking in 1920 and we're gonna stop in like 1927. They're just like, we're a
But
bunch of
also
people.
a
Yeah.
little bit of, I was reading a bunch of reviews, and of course they were pointing out, he's been accused of being very racist in the novel and homophobic,
Yeah.
but also he's been praised for maybe exploring homophobia and just showing the racism, not necessarily asserting that he was racist, but I read a
Showing
bunch
it.
about that.
Yeah.
Um, but
Because
go ahead.
I was thinking like I started kind of rereading it and skimming it again today because I finished it a little bit ago and kind of wanted to refresh my memory. And at first, it's like, here's Robert Cohn. He's a Jew, but it didn't really matter until everybody started telling him he was a Jew. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh, that's primary in this story.
yeah,
Like Robert
yeah,
Cohn being a boxer who's a
yeah,
Jew that like doesn't know his own confidence and people are going to bring it up. That's like, this is what's going to happen. We're going
yeah.
to talk about him being a Jew and how like it's okay with some people but not okay with other people.
Well,
Then
they
there's
make
like,
his Jewness the bad thing about him. They conflate the two things, and that's pretty explicit. That's pretty specific.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And they do that with other people too. Like this kind of woman, this kind of homosexual, this kind of black person, this kind of bullfighter, whatever it is. It's like you're in a category and we all expect you to act this way. So there's this scene where you first meet Brett, and Brett kind of at first just like, here's Robert Cohn. I was trying to think like, why on earth is that whole beginning part about like Robert Cohn being a Jew who's also a boxer and he has his wife and he's on the rebound? It's like, well,
yeah,
because otherwise they wouldn't have taken the trip. And
yeah,
this conversation that they have about, do you want to go on the trip or not, drove me fucking crazy. Like them deciding about like, well, come to South America. No, I don't like it there. Well, don't you like Paris? Not really. Well, then come to
yeah.
Spain.
It's
Like
so,
I was so
yeah,
pissed during that. I was just
yeah,
like, get it done. Whatever you're talking about.
yeah.
One of these
I'm
characters has to be decisive. Ah,
Yeah, yeah. And it's
yeah.
funny on the on the Gutenberg PDF anyway, really seeing like these
Hashtag
exposition.
Gutenberg PDF.
Yeah, yeah, sorry. Um, there's these like little paragraphs of exposition, like a sixth grader wrote it, and then this pages, of just one sentence dialogue between two characters with no tags, which I'm actually really into. I like that. I think it makes a reader pay more
You
attention.
mean tags like he said, she said,
Speech
things like
tags,
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. There's none of that. And I kind of like all that. It feels very real, like you're standing there. I mean, again, for 1926, I see what he's trying to do. He's like trying to show the mundane. He's trying to show, like, this is what it's really like to stand here and be this sort of slumpy little unself-confident guy like Jake. I think that's what we're after. I think like every scene and every conversation is about exploring every single one of them's masculinity, um, or lack of it, or their fear of not having it. And like Jake was hurt. The main character who's telling the story, he had an injury in the war and can't have sex, and he's
Right,
claimed,
but let me ask you this.
yeah.
Without looking at the commentary, would you have explicitly known that just from the text? And if so, how? Because, like, I never even got that impression at all
Really?
until I read some of the commentary. I was like, they're like, Hemmingway clearly explains, without using words that weren't able to be used during this era, that he
Oh,
has lost his phallus. This is like the review that I'm reading, and I'm like,
yeah.
wait, Jake? What?
Only
And
the
I go
yeah,
through, where do
only
you see it?
the doctor or whoever, like after the war, says to him basically, not you're not going to have much of a life. That's the strongest, if memory serves, that's the strongest indication that he's got an injury that affects him very seriously.
But how did you get it from just that? You're not going to have
I
much of a
wouldn't
life?
have I wouldn't
You
have
wouldn't
gotten it,
have.
probably not on the first read. I don't know if I would have gotten it, but I definitely, once you understand that, it makes the whole novel make more sense in terms of why he's the one telling the story.
I think it should be more explicit
Yeah, he
because,
could
like,
have. He could have.
well, because, like, that's huge. If the main
Yeah, it's
character,
huge.
like the narrator, had his,
Well, that's why Brett can't be with him. That's their whole tension,
oh,
is
I
they
thought it was
can't
just
have
because she
sex.
was crazy shit.
No, they can't have sex. So she keeps saying to him, like, I wish we could be together, but I can't remember her exact phrasing. But she does say to him at some point,
I wish you, I
something
wish you, I wish you had a
pretty
ding dong.
something. Oh my God. I was just watching Sex in the City, and the episode was when Samantha thinks it's up like season 1, and she thinks she's finally fallen in love for the first time, and she doesn't have sex with the guy, and then she does, and his penis is so small, she later calls it a gherkin.
Oh my
I was
god.
like, that's maybe the
And
best
the
line they
episode is
ever
probably
wrote.
called The
The
Gherkin.
gherkin. Yeah.
The Gherkin. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
No, that's the whole reason that Brett and Jake can't be together, because they can't have a sexual relationship.
Ladies and gentlemen, not only is the sun also rises like the real world, but it's also like Sex in the City.
Yes, it is.
It really is. Like, where are we gonna go have cocktails? I'll have a martini. Me too.
I'm
Who's
gonna
that
fuck
last?
everybody else here
Yeah.
because I can, because I'm
I
a
came with you,
woman.
but I'm gonna leave with him. Why don't we
Yeah.
have sex?
Yeah.
I'm gay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good Lord. So,
Gherkin.
what's interesting is even though it's not my cup of tea, and even though I don't like any of the characters, just through this discussion, I'm like, okay, I get it a little bit
Yeah.
more. But it's
I
just
went through that when
frustrating.
I studied it. Yep.
Oh my
I went through
God.
that.
Oh my God.
It was a
So when
pivotal
you
novel for its time, although I did read that there were a lot of reviews that absolutely hated it for the very reasons that we're talking about. A lot
really,
of it was morality, Christian morality in America. A lot of it was like
right,
how horrible. Even his mother wrote him a letter saying, you've run out of other ideas. You can't write about honorable things. Shame on you."
right.
Which I thought was
Nope.
fantastic. I'm like,
Sure.
I want to
Sure.
read all the letters that Hemingway's mother ever wrote him.
Right.
That's the thing that I
Right.
actually want to read.
Yeah, I don't think their relationship was very good, so they would be rife with tension.
Well,
Rife
that
with
would make
tension.
sense if he's who he is and she's writing letters from across the country to tell him what shit it is.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, just got to gander at your new life's work.
It's going to
didn't
take
like
2 weeks for
it.
this letter to get there, but
But I wanted you to know 2 weeks later, didn't care for it.
wow. I'm in Tennessee and my life sucks because you wrote this novel or whatever. I don't even know where she was, but
Oh my God. Okay, there's like a little moth or something all over me. That's all right. Here's the thing. I'm no longer hearing the ocean and
oh,
the like
good.
swishes anymore. So I think I fixed that. But now there's like a moth hovering about. So I might flail. If you're listening,
Yeah.
Shelly is flailing her hands around at a moth that came out of nowhere. So when we meet Brett, so Jake introduces us to Robert Cohn as a boxer, and he's like he's got a literary friend and a tennis friend. I'm the tennis friend, and he's also a boxer. He's a Jew. He's a writer. They're both writers, and they're expats. And he's like trying to get him to travel. Hey, do you want to hang out? He's like, no. Aren't you working? Yeah, no, I'm not. Let's go drink. And then they start drinking, and then they never stop until the end of the novel. They drink, and they
It's
make
inspired. It's
it's
inspired.
inspired.
Yeah,
It's
they're
inspired.
they're taking it to another level.
Right. And just like any good crew of friends on a bender in their 20s, they take things in stride. They're like, "Ah, oh, he's throwing up. He got in a fight. He'll be fine, buddy. Walk it off. Somebody go check on him." Like through this novel, I'm thinking about how many super drunk people I've like thought were gonna die when I left them in their hotel room, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like we got to go back and check on the guy. People are like, he's fine. He's fine. Yeah, he just had like 6 or 7 shots. He's fine. And you're like, I don't think so. Like, I feel like, and the next morning they're like on a run, having some
Yeah. Yeah.
espresso. Like,
Yeah.
fuck, yes. Oh my gosh. And like, so this is what they're doing. This is what they're doing. Here's this Brett. Okay, so in one of the first scenes, here we are. Here's Jake, um, our protagonist, I would imagine. But everything kind of centers around Brett. Also, she's the one kind of fucking with everybody, even
Yeah.
though she's just kind of sitting there being herself. She's messing with 3 or 4 different men: Jake,
Oh yeah.
bullfighter, Robert
Oh yeah.
Cohn, and Michael, her husband. You know,
Yeah.
and she knows it and she hates herself. So actually that's really relatable because I know that bitch. Like where you're like, why is
What are
everybody
you
so into
doing?
her?
Why is everybody so into her? Like this is the girl that literally all the guys turn and like and watch her come into the bar or the restaurant
Right.
and want
Look
to
at
know
that
like who
drunk
she is.
hot mess.
Is she amazing? Yeah. Isn't she
Right.
amazing? Oh, this, that, and the other. Next thing you know, they're all going to Morocco.
Right. Right. Are you are you having sex with her? Me too.
Well, I
Just in the
was, but now I'm
winter.
not, but
Just in the winter.
we're in
Yeah.
love.
Yeah, no, no, no. She's in love with him. She has sex with me, but she wants
But
his money. We all
her
hang out
her
together. It's great.
her and Hemingway also, like, this is a big deal that a lot of reviewers talk about, is that he describes her in a very masculine way. She has short hair,
Right.
she's this like independent sexualized being and all of that stuff. And it's but I actually do think he does a good job of saying, yes, she has this sexual agency as a woman in a way, but at the same time every single man wants to own her, and that's what they're fighting about. And she is fighting against that, but she's also trying to fight for her independence by giving herself to these men in hopes that whoever she might end up with is going to allow her to have financial stability. I'm going to assume. I don't know if it comes up, but come on, like that bitch
Did
needs somebody to
anybody
pay
just
rent.
did anybody describe
But I
her
think
as a
she might have independent
polyamorous?
wealth though too.
Did anybody call her a polyamorous gold digger? Because that could sum up
But
Brett.
she's not happy, and
She's
I was reading,
miserable.
she's
She's
miserable,
miserable.
and again, like that's I'll take it as an antagonist. She does her job. She flips everybody on their head,
She
and
does.
she's still she's not happy. And
Listen,
it's
this
almost like
exchange.
it's almost like the conflict in some way in this like feminist point of view is the men would all be happy if she would just conform with one of them. She never does.
Yeah.
None of them are happy, and also she is never happy.
Yeah.
And it's
They're
that like
miserable people.
it's like that conformity that they're just so, and I think that's probably a reflection of being like expats and rejecting America, but missing America so much. Um,
Yeah.
all
And
of that
being in
kind of
your
stuff.
20s
And being in
post-war.
your 20s post-war after World War One, yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
and
Oh my
having
gosh.
survived it, and people like Jake, is injured in the war, in a dramatic way, and seems to be in a fair amount of denial about it, or either
Yeah.
that was never really sexual to start with, but
Yeah, let me read this. So page 34 in my book, this is when you're seeing Jake and Brett. They're hanging out together, looking at each other. Like Jake took Georgette to the bar, and then Brett walked in with a
right,
bunch of gay men, I think is what it
yeah,
alludes to. Um, don't we pay for all the things we do, though? She'd been looking into my eyes all the time. Her eyes had different depths. Sometimes they seemed perfectly flat. Now you could see all the way into them. When I think of the hell I've put chaps through, I'm paying for it all now. Don't talk like a fool. Besides, what happened to me is supposed to be funny. I never think about it. Oh, no. I'll lay you don't. No idea what that means. Well, let's shut up about it. I laughed about it too myself once. She wasn't looking at me. A friend of my brother's came home that way from mine. It seemed like a hell of a joke. Chaps never know anything, do they? No, nobody ever knows anything. I was pretty well through with the subject. You know, at one time or another, I had probably considered it from most of its various angles, including the one that certain injuries or imperfections are a subject of merriment while remaining quite serious for the person possessing them. It's funny, I said. It's very funny. And it's a lot of fun, too, to be in love. Isn't that so? Now, with this in mind, that you're supposed to know
yeah.
that he like lost his dick in the war. I mean, I guess. I mean,
That's the name of our
that's
memoir.
it. Yes. Oh my God. I'm so disrespectful. I'm sorry. I couldn't figure out a different way to say it.
That is it. No, that's it. He
It.
lost his dick in the war, and Hemingway never comes out and says it. And actually, that he he loves that. I mean, you could argue that that is something that maybe all of the writers at this time were playing with, that talking around the very serious thing
Yeah.
and acting out, like all of this acting out around this like central
Right. Oh my God. We're
turmoil.
not going to name the thing. We're just, everything's
Yeah,
going to be influenced by the
yeah,
thing. Oh my
yeah. You
God. I
feel
kind
all
of
this
love that.
tension. Yeah, you feel all this tension.
It's like the acting exercise where you learn about stakes, raising the stakes. Do you know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah,
Raising the stakes, like two people sitting at a restaurant, two people sitting at a table having dinner is whatever.
yeah.
But two
Whatever.
people sitting at a table having dinner with a time bomb ticking underneath the table,
Yeah,
one of them's like leg is handcuffed to the table, like something that you can only see
yeah.
beneath the surface. And
Right.
then everything that they do has a different charge.
Yeah.
So Hemingway, I know you can't hear me, but you could have made that more obvious, and then I would have gotten it. It would have been a much different book.
I think
But I
a
would
lot of people felt
imagine
that way. I think a lot of
what?
people felt. I think a lot of readers felt that way at the time.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting. So okay. So this is how the things that drove me crazy. Uh, let's see. Here's too much dialogue in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe. Okay, So here's, I think it's Robert and Jake talking about Brett. There's a certain quality about her, a certain fineness. She seems absolutely fine and straight. She's very nice. I don't know how to describe the quality, Combs said. I suppose it's breeding. You sound as though you liked her pretty well. I do. I shouldn't wonder if I were in love with her. She's a drunk, I said. She's in love with Mike Campbell, and she's going to marry him. He's going to be rich as hell someday. I don't believe she'll ever marry him. Why not? I don't know. I just don't believe it. Have you known her a long time? Yeah, she was a VAD in the hospital I was in during the war. She must have been just a kid. She's 34 now. When did she marry Ashley? During the war. He was her own true love and just kicked off with the dysentery. You talk sort of bitter. Sorry, don't mean to. Just trying to give you the facts. I don't believe she would marry anybody she didn't love. Well, I said, she's done it twice. I don't believe it. Well, don't ask me a lot of fool questions if you don't like the answers. I didn't ask you that. You asked me what I knew about Brett Ashley. I didn't ask you to insult her. Go to hell. That's conversation. Which, reading it
I
out
guess if
loud
they
is,
were drunk, it kind of works, you know?
yeah, and I think when the conversations get drunker, and like, remember when he first sees Brett, he says something like, "Aren't you drinking?" And she says,
Yeah.
"Oh, I never get tight anymore." And then
Yeah.
she's like, "Brandy and soda, chap."
Yeah.
Like she starts drinking right away. Like she
Yeah.
says, "Oh, I never get that anymore."
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. This Brett character.
And her
We went
name
in.
is also masculine too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And she is, oh, like who would she be? Is there who would that equivalent be in Sex and the City or the real world? Like she's that hot girl who knows that she's fucking with guys and she just can't stop and she doesn't give a shit.
Yeah. And she also
That's who she is.
needs the attention. She needs
Right.
it. She can't stop herself. She needs it.
Right.
That is her security. Yeah. But it makes her endlessly unhappy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I think, like
Yeah.
contrasted with the whole bullfight thing, which most people probably know that the whole central sort of movement of the novel is that they go to Spain to see
Yeah.
the running with the bulls and the bullfights, and then there's a bullfight guy. What's he called? Matador, and
I think it's bullfight guy.
bullfight guy. Yeah, sorry, Spaniards. And
Yes, yes. And his
he
name, what is his
he's
name?
like he is a pure man. He is in his craft. He is good at it. He defeats the
Yeah.
animals. He is like masculinity, like on, you know, all the best testosterone in the world is reserved for this matador. And of
Yeah.
course, he sleeps with Brett at some point. But all the men, there was one critic that I read a summary of his work, and it was like his whole thing was like that the whole book was really, it could be analyzed if you looked at how each character responded to the first bullfight. And I thought that that actually made a lot of
Oh.
sense. Yeah, that made a lot of sense. Like even Brett and how everything falls out with her. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting because he is like this pure masculine being, and all the other men are sort of post World War American, um, dealing with um, their loss of masculinity in general in society, I think, and then also with Jake, his body, he like is represented by that, and then Cone, who is all the dudes, the quote unquote Jew that they refer to over and over again, but he's also a bit of an antagonist in that the men, or a foil, maybe you would call him a foil. I don't know. He is really smart, but he didn't fight in the war. And so they give him shit about that he never fought
Yeah.
in the war. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And he's sort of seen as like being controlled by women. Like 3 different women
Yeah,
control
he's a
him. Like his first
pussy.
wife.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
pussy. He just lets them drag him around.
Yeah, and then the honorable thing that he's trying to do by like loving Brett is so weird. I'm just
Yeah.
like, who is this weak ass
But I've run
father?
into that guy.
Of course I know
I've
that
run into
guy.
that guy. That
Of
guy's like,
course I
"Oh
know that guy.
yeah, I'm gonna, always be there for her and blah blah blah." And
You're
she's
like, why?
crashing at his house for
She's
25 years and
right. She's
using his
right.
car and,
Right.
you know,
I gave her all my money. I really
yeah,
love her. And you're like, why though?
yeah,
Why? She's insane. She's a drunk.
yeah,
Good Lord. I guess I do know that guy.
yeah. I know
Yeah.
that guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's talk about boring conversations.
There was a
Maybe
lot,
there was
and
a
even
lot.
there's some of the dialogue was like, wow, like I was like, wow, that blew me away. But a lot
Oh,
of it,
so
it
I
just
would
goes
like to
on and
hear
on.
a little bit more about that.
Okay, let me see. I've tried to keep it up on this one
Wait,
page.
let's do this. Let's do this first. So I do want to hear this, but I want to pee and get another jar of
Yes,
beer. And so
hallelujah.
I'm going to play,
Perfect.
hopefully, Josephine Baker. Hold on. Which was another, like, Hemingway really loved Josephine Baker.
As he should
So,
have.
so we've got 2 minutes and 43 seconds.
Perfect.
Wait a minute. Something else might start playing. If not, we'll edit it out in post. Just kidding. We probably won't. Yeah, we will. First you bring me joy, then bring me sorrow. Why you're just here today and gone tomorrow. Why can I have you for my own? Tell me why must I stay all alone? I wanna go where you go, do what you do. Go when you long and I'll be happy. I will cry when you cry, why you will cry. Why when you smile and I'll be happy. If you go north, south, if you go east or west, I'll find you around your heart. You're your little old man. I wanna go where you go. Do what you do. Know when you know, and I'll be Nice. Nice. Thank you, Josephine Baker, who allegedly Hemingway thought was one of the most fascinating people in the world.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, okay, so let me read it. I'm going to read an excerpt. Okay, the conversation. Did you find that the dialogue that you thought was like, wow, man, that blew my mind?
I'm trying.
Okay, I'm going to read you some that didn't blow my mind, but
Cool.
It's because I'm like, here's what I was realizing is that I was wanting them to be smarter. I was wanting them to be different. I was wanting them to mean more by what they were saying. But that's not the book that he wrote. He wrote the book that's just this guy who's a bad drunk
Yeah.
named Mike. Where's like there's the Mike conversations when Mike is drunk. And truly,
Yeah.
truly, he knows how to write a bad drunk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you hate them, right? Like I hate
Yeah.
some of these characters. I'm just like, gosh, somebody beat Mike up, right? So yeah. So here's this thing is happening where Brett, who loves Jake, who's engaged to Mike, who's going to be rich, but he's actually broken in debt. And Robert, she just for the hell of it went and spent a weekend with him, even though she didn't really like him, kind of just to fuck with him. And now he's hooked on her for life. And he's like, let's all hang out together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's all go have a good old fashioned bullfighting, awkward as fuck week or two together, right? And then
Yeah.
she's late, of course. They don't have any money. Like they're just total pain in the ass travelers. She
Yeah.
keeps getting lost and meeting strangers and fucking with people. But there's this super awkward tension where I'm like, I think I've been on this trip where like
Yeah.
that guy, Robert and Michael know that Brett is fucking with both of them. And they're like, should we meet? And Jake's like, sure, chap, it'll be fine. And they're just like, I don't know if I should go. Sure, it'll be great. And I'm thinking, this is bad. It's a bad
How
idea.
is
You
this going to
guys,
be good?
it's gonna be terrible. Look, Brett, tell Jake what Robert calls you. That is perfect, you know? Oh no, I can't. Go on, we're all friends. Aren't we all friends, Jake? I can't tell him. It's too ridiculous. I'll tell him. You won't, Michael. Don't be an ass. He calls her Circe, Mike says. He claims she turns men into swine. Damn good. I wish I were one of those literary chaps. He's good, you know, Brett says. He writes a good letter. I know, I said. He wrote me from San Sebastian. San Sebastian is where Brett hooked up with Robert.
Yeah.
They're talking about it in front of Mike, who she's engaged to. That was nothing, Brett said. He can write a damn amusing letter. She made me write that. She was supposed to be ill. I damn well was, too. Come on, I said. We must go in and eat. How should I meet Combe? Just act as though nothing has happened. It's quite all right with me, Mike said. I'm not embarrassed. If he says anything, just say you were tight. Quite. And the funny thing is, I think I was tight. Like basically they're saying, we're going to go see him and it's going to be weird. And he's like, just tell him you were drunk. It's like, well, I will, because like I was
I was, and
drunk.
we are
Was
right
drunk.
now.
Yeah,
So,
we are. We're going to get drunker. Here we go. Let's go watch the Bulls and get drunk. So I guess what is good about Hemmingway is that maybe it wasn't his writing that I hated. Maybe it was boring conversations and being reminded that there
yeah.
are people in the world that like
Yeah.
you're drinking with them and you're like, you
This
know,
is going nowhere.
you guys aren't good
There's no
conversations.
layers. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. I just learned a lot about this part of the electorate, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Fuck
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, you know, he got a
So,
lot of criticism for that. I mean, that was kind of what his mother's letter that I read the excerpt of, she was kind of addressing. Like, it was kind of like, we just don't, like, as a nation, you know, because it was during Prohibition. Also, we should point out to our listeners, if you've never read the book, it's in Europe, everyone was drinking. Meanwhile, in 1926 in America, it was Prohibition.
sure.
And you know, so probably along with that was a lot of white Christian idealization and control. And
Sure.
so it doesn't surprise me that his mother would have been a part of that and would have said, you know, hey, why are you only, you know, focusing on this floozy whore and
Sure.
all the men who are drinking.
Dear Ernest.
Yeah, dear Ernest,
This is your mother.
maybe don't come home for Christmas.
Well, I'm just thinking all of a sudden, like, we've done a couple of books that were people who smoke weed during weed prohibition, talking about weed, right? The difference is, in my humble opinion, like when we read something like Smoke Signals, the people in those books are like being super spiritual. They're being activists. They're like
Yeah,
riding a horse across America to get people out of prison.
yeah,
Like they're not just sitting around like not doing anything. They're not hungover. They're not hooking up with everybody. They're like,
yeah,
we want to change the law because there's this magic plant that heals people. And
yeah,
we want to have a super intense conversation. Let's write poetry and music and get really excited politically about this plant. They're not just like, say, I'm tight. Let's get a cab and go get more brandy and spend our money on stupid
it's kind of
shit.
an argument for prohibition.
It's not an argument for prohibition. It's like,
It's like these people should
clearly,
not be drinking.
they shouldn't
Yeah,
be allowed to drink. They can't do it. They can't do it. Like all of them, like in the conversations, what I'm realizing now, like in real time, was maybe it wasn't so much the writing style, it was how good he was at describing drunk people.
yeah,
And where whatever reason they're drunk. They're drunk because they are miserably in love or not in love. They're drunk because they just got out of war. They're drunk because
yeah,
they're broke. They're drunk
yeah,
because there's a party going on in the city. They're drunk, like whatever it is, you're
yeah,
like, oh, those are drunk people. In a couple hours, that guy's going to get in a fight.
yeah.
Those two
There's
people are
no
going to have an
hero.
awkward
There's no
interaction. No.
hero.
Mm-mm.
The whole and that's also one of the other reasons that I'm sure this is an acclaimed novel in that way, it being modern, because it really does not have a hero. Nobody comes out on top.
No.
Um, and you can kind of feel him
Yeah.
like dancing around like, is this guy our moral center? Is this guy our moral center? Is this guy our moral
Who are
center?
you pulling for at any
Yeah.
given moment?
Yeah, I mean, at
No one.
times you're like, you're pulling for Khan, you're pulling for other times, pulling for Brett in some weird ways, probably from being a woman. Um, but yeah, and I guess because he's narrating, you kind of are like, where is this going with Jake? Like, where are we headed? But
Nowhere.
the final scene, he just says, she says something like, "We could have had great times together." Or something. She says it better than that, but then he says, "Yeah, what a pretty thought," or something like that, and which kind of is an amazing last line because it really kind of sums up. Um, somehow it sort of sums up what the novel is kind of getting at, which is what a last line should do, as well as, in my opinion, a first line. But yeah, it's pretty epic.
Yeah, now that I think about that, like that last line, like if we could have had such a damn good time together, and they're riding, they're close together, they're in the taxi
Yeah,
or whatever,
it's
going up
just
the street,
very
and
romantic.
they're in love, and the we could have had such a good time together would have to mean the war wouldn't have happened.
Yeah,
You would be
I'd still have my
healthy.
dick.
We'd both be mentally healthy, maybe. I wouldn't be divorced. We wouldn't be in this fucked
Yeah,
up situation. Like it's
I could have orgasms with you. Although, I guess
sure, all that.
in a modern, if you could write it today, it would be like, maybe she'd explore having sex with him. That would be a good novel.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Write it. Write it. It's the sequel.
No.
The sequel is called Jake Got a
I
Strap
literally
On.
needed you to help me write a tweet.
Did you do it?
No, I haven't done it yet.
Well, you know what? Think about it. It's like bashing, like my title was like "Let's Bash Hemmingway," and now I'm sitting here thinking about like what I'm really bashing is drunk conversations with drunk people that annoy me, right? Like because you said it when we were first texting about it, when I was like, why is this book so famous? I don't understand. We were texting about it a couple weeks ago. And we started talking about it being very male and very alcoholic. And one of the things that I read today about Hemingway was somebody said that it's a myth that Hemingway was always drunk while writing, because he wasn't drunk while writing. He thought that was crazy. And I always thought he was drunk writing. Everybody said he really loved to drink, but that he wasn't a drunk writer. And so it's like, you asked the question, if he was just like writing down dialogue of drunk people, that's one thing. But if he created it so you would understand what it would be like to be around drunk people, and of course that's not the entire point of his novel. Like, I'm going to
Yeah.
sit down and write about what it's like to be around drunk people. But if he was able to do it so well, just from plotting it out, then that's pretty impressive.
It's so
Because,
impressive. Because
and
you know
that,
what?
now I'm,
Yeah,
fuck, now
those
I'm
times have a vibe.
impressed.
Those times have a vibe. And I would actually argue that when you find yourself in that group of people where everybody's just partying too hard and the conversations are all basically bullshit and everybody's just in their angst and their agendas, and because everybody's drinking so much, it's fairly obvious, because by the time the sun sets, somebody's going to be fucking somebody, and that seems
Yeah,
to be,
yeah.
and then we're all going to wake up and go to breakfast and start all over again. And there are times in your life, I guess probably more when in your 20s, when you kind of sign up for that level of really angst inducing, um,
Irresponsibility.
it's
It's,
more than irresponsibility. It's literally like you are embracing this level of indulgence, like
yes.
the amount of indulgence that you're allowing yourself to explore and be a part of,
Yeah,
even though it's like you're physically in pain and you know everybody else around you is too. There's something
absolutely.
about doing that together, um, via alcohol or other drugs,
Go hard or go home.
that does lend this sort of there's an existentialism for
Oh
sure
yeah,
when you're
I
going
did
through
it.
it. Oh
Well,
yeah.
and like, basically, here's
It's
what,
like
you know what it was.
it's like picking at a scab.
This is why this is why this book is like an uncomfortable memory. Okay, this book
Mm-hmm.
is like an uncomfortable memory of understanding what it's like to be that person who's like so bored with your existence, like
Yeah.
you're so out of touch with yourself, and you know
Bored with
that
yourself. I would
you're
argue that Jake
so
is bored with
bored.
himself.
They're bored with themselves.
They're
And so
bored
they're
with
just creating
themselves.
little dramas. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, sometimes when we're really wasted, we kind of have fun. So we should keep that going, right? I'm
Yeah.
bored. It's 2 p.m. and I walk into my friends. I'm like, I'm going to go get as much beer as I can buy with however much money we can find in like the couch cushion.
We are doing
We're
this.
doing this. We've got $7.
But we are
We
psyched because we
get
get to probably buy
Milwaukee's
a shitty case of beer, which is
we get
a
Milwaukee's
lot of
Best
beers per
Light.
person.
We get Milwaukee's Best Light, and we have terrible conversations, but we're
We're doing it together.
we're doing it together, and we're drunk, and we're doing it together. And I remember even then going like, I'm so bored, so
So
bored.
bored.
I'm so bored. These
This
people are
is
so
one of the
boring.
things you and I bonded over. And I would say, even
Yes,
in high school, you and
yes.
I bonded
We
over
were bored
this.
with other people.
We
We were bored.
we were, and I'm
Yes.
not even really sure how it happened, other than we sat next to each other in choir. So I don't know if it was like during choir that we just started making more comments to each other, or what happened. But
Oh, I don't know.
somehow we slowly sort of we didn't cut ties with our peripheral people, but we kind of, the peripheral people are there. We just sort of we did, this is Ricky Gervais. He does this.
We should categorize people. I wonder if you remember this. We had for a couple of years at least, we had categories for people
I
that
don't
were
remember.
assholes. That we had categories of people that were assholes. They were either like too much shit has happened to them or not enough shit has happened to them.
Oh my God, I have no memory.
Really? We would be
Shelly.
like, that guy's fucked up, but it's either because too much shit has happened to him, or
That's so
nothing has
true.
happened to him yet. And we would be like, oh, it's the first one. Like that
Yeah.
person's been through some
Yeah.
shit.
Can't
Or
date
it'd be like,
him.
it's the second one. Or it would just be like why we like or don't like that person. Like that person's being fake and crazy because nothing has happened to them yet. And they don't know how the world is. They don't know who they are. They don't know how to be authentic. Like just nothing's happened to them yet. Right. But then there's that other person that we can't be around because way too much shit is happening to that person.
Right.
And they're just reacting and they're crazy and they're bringing their crazy onto you. And you're like, you know,
No, can't do
we
it.
can't do
Can't do
that
it with
either.
you. I was excited
Sometimes,
for a second, but no. No.
but then the danger set in. Like, you
Yeah.
were interesting the first day when you wore a cape and you jumped off the building, and but then we realized that that is unsustainable. Like we were willing to give you a shot, but
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
even then, so let me tell you, in honor of Ernest Hemingway and these characters, that there was this. I'm going to be meta for a minute. I'm going to put a thing inside of a thing inside of a thing. Facebook. There's this thing that happens on Facebook, which it's May 2020. We're quarantined in the pandemic, and people live a virtual reality by interacting with each other through a computer. It's really fucked up.
It's
So
totally fucking Star Trek, dude.
it's
It
weird.
has arrived,
It's a
everybody.
weird thing. So I go through Facebook, and there's this thing that happens on Facebook where everybody's like, we're all gonna do this one thing. We're all gonna bake bread. We're all gonna make memes about our cats. We're all gonna have like avatars made of our face or what. There's like things people will jump in and I'll play, you know. And there's this thing these people were doing for a while that was like, here's 10 things that everybody likes, but that I don't like, right? And people would name things like, I don't like this, I don't like this. And so I never did it, but I made my list on paper. And what I realized was they were things socially that are supposed to be fun that I've never ever liked. I was like,
Not
I
fun.
hate wedding showers, I hate baby showers, I hate girls' night out, I hate like
I hate girls not.
shopping.
Oh, dude.
Girls night
I
out. Let's have fun. And so this book, The Sun Also Rises, reminds me of that. Let's have forced fun using cocktails where we try really hard to have fun,
guess
but
it's
no
true.
one's really having fun. So this book was an uncomfortable reminder for me of like
Yeah.
how many times I was invited to a thing that was supposed to be like a super cool party, and I was just like, we're fucking trying too hard. Everybody's spending a
Yeah.
lot of money on cocktails, and it's too loud in here.
Yeah.
I want to go away, and
But
this isn't fun.
I would also argue that one of the remedies that I feel like we both did this actually, and I would include hope in this, and I would include
Oh, please include Hope.
I
Let's
seriously,
call her.
like, I know by
What's
the
she
end of
doing?
our year, I feel like we actually all in our own ways like started to figure out it a little bit about what we were comfortable with. But yeah, I don't even hardly remember. But I would argue that the great thing about Brett in the book is that there are no other women, dude, except Georgette the
Right.
prostitute.
But
Um,
here's what makes me nervous about that is that I was that girl for
we
a
all
long
do it, but
time.
that was safer, was it
I was
not?
the girl that hung out with all the dudes.
Me too. And
I was
I
the only
loved
girl.
it. And to be honest
Yeah.
with you, I shouldn't have felt safer with them, but I always did.
Oh no,
I
it's a bad idea.
I felt
It's
way
a
safer,
bad
even
idea.
though I mean we all could. I could just list off quote after quote, memory after memory of like hanging out with the dudes and them saying and doing things. I remember yelling at Joey one time. We were on top of some
Joey's my
mountain
brother. Listening
having a
audience. Joey's
yeah
my brother.
yeah having a campfire. It was probably a really awesome evening considering the
Where
group.
was the campfire?
You know, is it called Mount Mitchell? We used to drive to the top of it and just kind of later in life we would drive to the top of it, and Robin always loved that drive.
Oh my god. I have no
Yeah.
idea. Fuck.
And
I bet it was
anyway,
awesome.
it was awesome.
Mm.
I mean, compared to the Colorado mountains or whatever, but Still,
It was a small
you would
hill.
draw,
It
yeah,
was a small hill.
exactly, a knob, and you would drive to the top of it, and it was like, and so, at some point we all had Joey was there, a bunch of us were together, which was kind of epic, and your brother kept throwing beer cans into the fire. And I was just like, Joey, if you fucking throw another beer can into this fire and I have to watch it melt, I don't know what's happening in the air or the environment right now, but I cannot fucking physically take it. Like, fucking stop it. And he was
Oh
just
my
like, whoa,
God.
whoa, whoa. You know, I don't know why I brought that up, but I just have these memories of being with that particular group of men, Kenneth, Robin,
Oh
Benji.
my God.
I remember Benji when I was in, like, he was dating Maureen
Hey,
Pilgrim, and
before this is over, like I'm gonna set a goal. Look at this. I just did braids and I'm digging it. Hey, visual reference for the listeners. My hair is so long lately that I just did two braids, two Pocahontas
she
braids,
did, she
and they're
did.
sort of crushing it. They're
If
so
Thelma were a
crushing
brunette who was also 7 feet tall and had braids, that's what I'm seeing right now. Benji Adair telling me we were all too young to be drinking. I'm sure Benji was probably already drinking, but
Were we at a pool? Were we in
no,
someone's
no, no,
backyard?
dude. We went to Hunting Island with Blair and Maureen because my mom
Dear
dated
God.
Blair and Maureen's dad. We had a
What?
blast. That was probably, honestly, that was probably some serious fun for me, even though
Of course.
I kind of hated their dad, but um, we all kind of course, I made out with Blair and all that shit. But I remember
Sure, sure. Hey, everybody from William Springs, South Carolina, we love you.
Blair Pilgrim,
Peace,
thinking
peace. We love
fondly,
you.
thinking,
These
but
are old memories, but
the best moment is
truth.
Blair or Benji Adair
Truth.
saying, Maureen constructs the
Maureen,
question. She constructs the
sure.
question. This is our Hemmingway moment.
Okay.
More around the fire in this campground right off the beach. I don't know where the parents were. We're all in like 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade ish. Maureen constructs the question. We're doing like a truth or dare, some kind of weird conversation.
Right.
Maureen asks Benji, well, do you think Kris is more looks or personality? And there's no pause at all. There's no time. He literally launches in and says, personality. That moment literally set me up for pretty much the rest of my life.
Oh my God.
Seriously. It was so honest.
It
And I've
was,
always felt that way. And I've had
oh, that's
men tell me
funny.
that I'm beautiful, but the whole time I can hear Benji in my head being like, come on, Kris, you know what's up. You know, it's
Okay, okay, I've
personality.
got one. I've got one. Two, actually. No, those aren't really drunk things, though. Those are just mean
This wasn't
older
drunk.
boy things.
This wasn't drunk. This is what I'm saying, though,
Just
is
honest young
just,
man.
just
Honest young man.
honest, cutting
Sure,
through it.
sure, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I
I hear
like
you.
that. I couldn't get that. You were the only female, besides really Maureen, um, in some ways. She was very blunt and very honest.
I don't
And
remember what people are like.
I
Like
do.
I do in that I think about the fact, I don't know if I want to say this on the air, but like I've had so many wonderful memories because people have private
Wonderful,
lives, but like
wonderful memories.
no, I'm saying like that, like things are cast in a glow. When you take mundane young party life when you're like innocent and weird and
Mm,
uncomfortable and you cast it in that light of like being 17 years old at Myrtle
mm,
Beach
mm.
at sunset,
Yeah,
you
I
know
don't
what I
have any of
mean?
that. I don't have any. I have like
No, you were
5.
there.
I
You
know,
were
but it was never
there.
like romantically
No,
glowy to me.
it's not romantic.
Okay.
It's just the weird caption, right? Like this book, The Sun Also
Yeah.
Rises.
Yeah.
Is this just it? He's not saying these people are good or bad.
Yeah, it's true.
He's just saying
Like,
this
this
is
is how
it.
they are.
We went and had coffee, then we started drinking sherry, then we started drinking
This is what people
champagne.
said.
This
I'm
guy
just
got in a fight.
reporting. This is what
He's
people said.
just reported. This
Yeah.
guy got in a fight. This guy threw up. the doorman didn't like us. We
Yeah.
almost didn't get served. We got kicked out.
Yeah.
I got a
Yeah.
cab. That's all he's saying.
Totally.
He's
Totally.
just being honest. So in my mind, my type of art, I guess, loves to capture that idea that like there was this era where me and you and Rick Volk and Julie
Oh,
Powell
Rick
and
Volk and Julie
Lisa
Powell.
Malone, and
Elise,
all these
I
people,
know.
we were standing on Myrtle Beach dancing around, and it
Don't
was like we were
remember.
sunburnt and it was
Of
terrible. We were
course.
listening to the Violent Femmes, and
Oh,
we all needed to go back, but we didn't know what we were going to eat. And like everybody was
yeah.
like, you're burnt, I don't feel good, where's my
Yeah.
boyfriend? Like everybody's just being so basic.
So
But in my
basic.
mind, like we're so basic. We're just like, let's
Extra
party and
basic.
then eat a cheeseburger.
I have no
That's
memories.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were there. You were there. I have
I was there.
photos.
I was definitely there.
Yeah. So Ernest. So Ernest Hemingway. I started off this episode like wanting to bash, and I have been a little bit bashing, but it's more about the subject matter, is what I'm realizing.
Yeah.
I'm bashing the subject matter because, like, although in my mind I'm okay holding on to that, it's an era. It's a capturing of an era. Not saying it's good or bad.
A
Not saying it's
moment.
good or bad. It's capturing a moment of like,
Yep.
here's okay, so fuck, now I get it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
get
That's why it's
it's
called
a
one of the greatest all-time novels because
right,
for its
fucking
moment in
A.
time,
Right.
it was, it was pivotal. It was pivotal. And I totally get it. I totally get it. And there's a lot of sentences where I'm just like, oh my God. I know if he were alive today, he would shoot himself for some of the, just because we've come so far in terms of if you want to really be minimal is like, it's everything. It's all anyone ever fucking talks about. It's like, cut your shit, make your sentences better. The scene should be, everything should be tight. Not a word should be wasted. I
I don't
mean,
know.
my
I mean, I
God.
do know, but I also like when an author can describe the
Me
contents of a
too.
room for
Me
24 hours.
too.
I
Truman
love it.
Capote. Truman Capote. Uh,
Bathe me in the language,
yes, bathe me in the language. I totally
Tell me
agree.
what everybody's thinking. Tell me
Exact. I
everything.
agree.
Tell me
I
everything.
agree. I agree. I totally agree. Yeah.
I just finished my second jar of beer.
Oh, I finished mine too, and I want another one.
It's delicious, but that's all. I never have alcohol in the house. I have right now a little bit of Pimm's. A couple of weeks ago, it was really sunny outside, and I made Pimm's cups for me and my neighbor. Do you know what Pimm's is?
I should know what Pims is. I feel like I did know what Pims was.
Maybe like if you so I used to do tours, remember, in like uh the Chelsea Flower Show in London and like the Blackpool Dance Festival in London. I worked for a tour company for a few years, and
I
one of the
don't
things
remember
that
that.
yeah, I led international tours for a few years.
What?
And I did. I worked for Huron Valley Travel. We did tours to Oktoberfest in Germany and the Chelsea Flower Show in London and the Blackpool
Never knew
Dance
that.
Festival. What?
Had no idea. That must have been when my children were small.
No.
No fucking clue.
Maybe. Maybe they were in like, they were, yeah, probably. Because
Yeah.
it was maybe 10 years ago. You're right.
Okay. Yeah.
You were in the thick of it. You were in the thick of it. But so yeah, I
Yeah.
led international tours for a while, and
So
you're
Thelma.
you're sitting outside at like before the flower show or whatever, and you're on a lawn in
Of course.
London or something, and
Yeah.
you're having a
Very
Pimm's cup,
manicured.
which Pimm's is a liqueur,
Right.
and you
Okay.
put a sparkly beverage like ginger ale or tonic or something, and a little bit of lemonade and cucumbers. And
Sounds
it's just,
perfect.
oh my God, it is fucking delightful on a sunny day. I mean, fight me. It is like you hand somebody a Pimm's cup on a day. I
It sounds
mean, come on.
wonderful.
It's wonderful. So I'm going to go back with the Pimm's cup to the mundane glow around an era, a capturing in time.
Hmm.
meta again, level under level under level. So
I like how you explain that
my
every time. That's very meta.
good, good. I want to keep explaining it. And then when this post, I'm going to explain it in print and then I'm going to explain it on Facebook and on Instagram. So it's
Perfect.
meta within meta
You just
within
need an
meta.
image. Find an image and be like
I
meta.
don't understand it.
That's it.
I'm trying so hard just to do the basic
I think you
things
need an
to
onion.
make it all work. An onion,
Find an
sure.
onion.
Well, you work on that. You work on that. Um, I have an upstairs neighbor, one guy, two downstairs neighbors. They're cool as shit. Downstairs neighbors in a band together, known each other since they were in high school. Skinny rocker dudes. They're in a metal band. That's really good. Also, they are tattoo artists.
Oh,
One's a
okay.
tattoo artist, one's a screen printer. But since the
Ooh.
pandemic, they basically chill the fuck out in the backyard. They just like sit in the backyard and drink PBR and chat. I mean, that's it. Or they sit
I
on the front
love
porch and
it.
smoke, and that's it. And they're nice. They're super nice, and we talk about food. Like I'll catch them in the backyard, and they'll be like, "Hey, have you ever ordered from this place? You ever ordered from that place?" And it's great. So one day, this was just kind of one of those being in the present moment. This is a new normal for me. You know what I mean? I'm not thinking about goals or like what's next or what's happened or what I should be doing or what's the best thing for me or anything. I'm just walking back from the park and my neighbors are hanging out in the yard and I'm like, what's up? Like, we're just sitting in the backyard drinking. I'm like, that sounds fun. It's like one of those freakishly warm days in Michigan. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to make you guys a Pimm's cup. And they're like, sweet. And so they don't even know what I'm talking about. I come upstairs, I concoct this whole thing, I shake it, chop up the cucumbers, I put them in there, bring them out there, and they're just like, this shit is sight. They're just like, this is some tasty, refreshing shit right here. And they're so tiny. Like when I'm like we share laundry. So when I like get their shit out of the laundry, it's like child's clothing. It's like
There you
tiny skinny
go.
guy jeans, right? Like
Yeah.
they're it looks like people can't wear these, right? But like
Yeah.
they do. They're tiny guys. But also they're super funny. And so we had this evening where all we talked about was um there's a Joe and Casey downstairs and Cameron upstairs. Joe and Casey. Casey is the tattoo artist, and he went on and on about like how predictable people are when they walk in the door to get a tattoo. He's like, this guy, aggressive Bible verse. This girl, positive Sanskrit.
Oh God.
Like
Oh God.
I can see it as soon as they come in the door. They're like
Oh God.
their favorite football team on their calf, like, and then
Uh,
like tiny girl has the highest pain tolerance and the biggest douchey guy has the lowest pain tolerance. And it's just funny story after funny story. And I'm making them Pimm's cups and serving them. And they're telling me stories
oh my
about
God.
tattoos.
That is amazing.
And it was such a great story. And so, in defense of Ernest Hemingway, the capturing of those like
Yes.
random afternoons where you're just like, we did all this random shit,
Yeah.
and I feel like telling that story. We went to the bullfight
Yep.
and we liked the guy, and the first guy wasn't that good, but he did it, and the second guy was better, but then the third guy was a master. He was a dancer, and you've had that day before if you're our age,
Yeah.
where you see this and you're like, this is something I should remember.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of a fucked up time. We're in the middle of a fucked up situation, but right now I'm in the sunshine with people that are interesting to me, and we're watching someone fight a bull. And we're going to be able to have a cocktail with that person in a couple of hours. And we should remember it.
Yeah.
I know it seems mundane. And now I'm defending Hemingway.
Yeah.
Now I'm like fucking full circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
did I lose
Yeah.
my credibility?
No. No.
No.
Definitely not, because I think
Okay.
it
I'm
kind
willing to
of
learn. I'm willing to learn.
it kind of reminds me of when we read that short story way back.
Leopard,
Nope. Nope. It was the one, it was written, I think it was published.
women in a hammock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
and it seems so juvenile on the first run
Oh
through. The
my God, I
language,
know.
it's sparse, and you get to the end of it and you go, huh. And it's only after rereading it and really thinking about it that you get the thing that she actually expressed without ever saying what it was.
Oh yeah.
And it's masterful. It's masterful.
Yeah.
It's almost like anytime you read something and you go, well, that was shit, you probably should reread it because, or,
God, you know what is funny is I hope my greatest hope as a writer right now is that some of the shit that seems like shit to me right now will at some point be
somebody will go, wow,
masterful.
wow, that was really
At
layered.
some point, somebody's gonna read Quarantine 2020, my bra is missing, and go like, "There's a lot going on here." This is so good. She's a
Yeah.
natural talent.
Oh my God. I hate that natural talent bullshit. I hate that. I also hate it when
Like,
writers say the characters came to them fully formed. I'm like, that is not a thing.
fuck you.
Not a thing. Nothing happens fully formed. No.
Well, it does though. Like I have friends, like I have songwriting friends that they construct a song where they're like, here's a melody, my friend has a poem, we're going to try to put it together, we're going to workshop it, we're going to change keys, and they're very technical. And other people are like, I was sitting cross-legged and a funnel came down and
Yeah.
landed into my
No, I
lap and
get
my
it.
guitar and it was there, you know.
Yeah,
I
totally,
feel like that
totally.
happens with
It
people.
does happen, but still, for a writer
Fuck
to
them.
say these characters presented themselves fully formed, I'm just like, no, no, they
Really? Really? She had a gray backpack.
no, no,
Right
mm-mm.
away, her name was
Yeah,
Penelope. She had a gray backpack.
uh-uh,
Ex-boyfriend named Ryan.
no,
Sure.
no.
Great. Maybe you're just copying people you know, fake
I
writer.
mean, even Hemingway used his name and the other real person's name in the draft of the novel. He didn't even.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
What?
it was him and Hadley for his wife, I think, maybe in the beginning. I
Oh.
can't remember, so sorry, literati, but yeah, he used him and he used another somebody from real life. In fact, it was such a thing that he based these characters on real people that one of the reasons they think the novel did so well in Europe was because all the Americans,
Everybody
expats,
was reading about their
was trying to
friends.
figure out who was who,
Yes.
which again is very voyeuristic. Yeah, kind of ingenious. Everybody wanted to know like who was he talking about, who was in the book, what episodes was he going to relay, all that kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh, God, it has so much to do with the era.
Yeah, and he was trying to capture a really specific time while it was happening, which that in and of itself is really fucking hard to do.
It's hard.
Especially at his age, because that would be like me trying to write about being on Dead Tour while I was on Dead Tour and
Wow.
trying to describe the characters that I was in contact with every day. You don't have the context. So for him to just be like, this is what I'm going to do, even though, especially when you first start reading it, it just feels so forced. It feels so, the language and Jake's tone and, the whole thing. But then when I put it in context of like, if we want to look at it as this was a very, very original attempt to create that I narrative voice that J.D. Salinger later completely blew out of the water. If I put it in that context of like
How have we
this,
not done that book yet?
no, 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 no. So for Hemingway to have sort of played around with it and tried it, and this is what came out of it, yeah, that's amazing in
No,
19.
I mean, how have we not done Catcher in the Rye yet?
Oh, I know. We should.
We're stupid.
Yeah, we should. I'm obsessed.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got a lot. I did a lot of hustling the last couple of days. I know. Surprise, surprise. I'm like 85% Amazon Prime, random, boring British documentary watching.
Okay.
walk around town drinking coffee. But every once in a while, I hustle my ass off
That's awesome.
and get all the things done. And so I have like the next 12 episodes. I told you a little bit about it
Yeah.
earlier, but it's like I
Yeah.
want to read with certain people about certain things. So I sent you earlier today,
Yeah.
like the yellow swan or the swans one. It was like it's a fairy tale that I just want to go off on, and you're gonna want to go off on, and we're gonna do it Monday.
Oh, you're gonna do it
So
Monday. Okay.
you and me and
Okay.
Jillian, you and me and
Okay.
Jillian, and we're gonna talk about how insane this fairy tale is. It's called something like Seven Swans. So we're gonna do that, and then I've got a
Okay.
chef, the chef who did all the wonderful infused food at this event I went to earlier, where she like micro infuses all the food, and she's wonderful. And there's
Wow.
a book called Why We Can't Sleep. I think it's called Why We Can't Sleep. It might be Why Can't We Sleep. But anyway, that's the book she wants to read about being a woman of a certain age, and like the 9 million reasons why you're worried about something, and it's kind of like an interesting study of women of a certain age. And like, I'm open to doing that because on opposite weeks, I'm trying to do just
Yeah.
basic silly shit. Like I can do heavy book, light fare, heavy book, light fare. Like I'm all for keeping your mind expanding, but like you got to balance it out. So, yeah. So that read is going to have to be sandwiched between, like the reading of a Simpsons episode and like
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
else light. But I want to do it with her because like I'm very interested. I'm just very interested in A, why she wanted to talk about that, and B, she is a really cool lady. It's
Cool.
like, yeah. So booked all that, and that was my hustle.
Good job,
That
dude.
was my hustle. So
Right.
look at what's happened. What has happened is that I thought I would surely just bash The Sun Also Rises, but as we've talked, I've realized like this is the thing about reading and being a person who seeks wisdom, is that you're going to understand someone on a better level if you open your mind to it. I didn't want to think Hemmingway might be a genius. I wanted him to be a drunk guy talking about drunk people. I wanted to bash him, right? But now I'm realizing that's his intention wasn't to capture like the best people. It
Yeah.
wasn't to motivate you. It was just he was just saying what was.
Yes.
That's it.
That's it.
And that it's an art form.
It is an art form. And he
Here's what
was
it
he
is.
was somewhat of a pioneer, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, and he was a dude and he had the ability to play around with it. And he had Gertrude Stein, and I think F. Scott Fitzgerald too. I mean, he had his moment, and he really brought it forth. Even though, like I said, it's the tone of the narrator and the sentence structure, and of course the racism and all of that kind of stuff is very dated um, and out of touch with modern readers, but it's still worth a read because in the context of 1926, it makes a lot of sense.
Plus, it's worth a read to get a snapshot and to understand that you yourself are in a snapshot.
Yeah,
You're in a
this
snapshot.
is what
And
it sounds
like,
like. Yeah,
this is what it's like. You're living out your mundane problems, and you're taking them so seriously right now.
yeah,
You're into them.
yeah,
They might really be big, they might really be small, but right now they're all consuming for you personally in this era of your life. And then 3 years from now, you look back at your journal and you go like, wow, that was the most important thing to me back then.
Yeah,
That seems
yeah.
ridiculous. That seems
Yeah.
ridiculous now,
Yeah.
you know?
Totally. Totally.
Yeah. And anyone can relate to that. So my forgiving nature of Ernest Hemingway is going, maybe you were seeing this and you were as disgusted as I was, but because you couldn't get out of it, because
Yeah.
you were inside of it, you
Yeah.
just wanted to document it. That's
Yeah.
what you wanted. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how I write right now. What I write right now is I don't want to write, I try to write something grander than what is.
Yeah.
What fascinates me most is just what is. It's just me
What's
and my
happening?
neighbor. It's just what's happening. Just the
Yep.
fact that, like, me and my friend, like, I ordered a badminton set. We took it to Frog Island Park. We put it up, and while we were there, a man, like a white guy, middle-aged white guy in a mask, danced around to like the Doobie Brothers for a couple of hours, and we
Wow.
cheered him on. And then
Nice.
this weird kid in a recumbent bike with his face covered, like with his T-shirt, so he looked really weird. He
Okay.
was circling the whole time that guy was dancing, and I was just like, this is as interesting as it can get. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, here we are, badminton during the quarantine,
Yeah.
high grass because of the rain, guy dancing on the platform, kid bicycling. Like, I could make up something grand and fantastical, but this in itself
Yeah.
is super interesting. It's
Yeah.
super interesting, and I can honor that. I can honor
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That's the whole thing, dude.
that's the whole thing.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing, right? I mean, that's
That's the
that's what you
whole
try to do with
thing.
comedy, right? You try to
Yeah,
boil down these truths that every single person is
we get it.
experiencing.
Like,
Yeah.
we
You
get it.
try to
Yeah.
take that and create your own, here's my instance. And everybody's going to get it because you've hit on the universal, but you've done it in the thing that is ordinary, and that's what makes it funny.
Oh yeah. I love that shit. Hey, listeners, I'm gonna make another visual reference, but like, is the light hitting my hair right now where it looks purple?
It kind of does look purple.
Are you seeing this purple
Yeah,
situation?
I do.
So does that make you want me, like, I've never
Oh,
dyed my
if you had
hair.
dark purple hair like that, it would look rad, pretty rad. I don't
Like,
think
if
I'd
I
do your
had
whole
some
head.
just some streaks,
Yeah, just a patch
a
maybe.
patch of dark purple. Because
Yeah,
look at this
like a
example
lake
here.
area. Yeah,
Just, it
right
was just
there.
laying here, just some
Yeah.
patches of purple.
Yeah, it would look good.
Damn, I might do that.
It would look good.
I also might, another visual reference, look at my nails look nice right now.
How
What's
are your
going on with
nails
that?
done? Did you do that?
No, 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 they just grow. Oh,
Why are they so shiny?
I put like clear, like polish
Oh.
on them,
Oh,
but
wow.
that's it.
Wow. They look amazing,
What?
dude.
Oh, really? Because
Amazing. Are you
normally,
kidding?
here's
Mine are
what happens.
dirty and
I
jagged and
usually, I usually, pre-pandemic have everything like painted bright blue, and the reason is because I have a chronic nail biting. I have a chronic nail biting habit,
yeah.
cuticles, everything. I discovered a couple of years ago that if my nails were like nicely manicured, I was less likely to mutilate them.
There you
And it
go.
kept me healthier because like I touch things and touch my face. But if my nails are done, I would like not touch my face. So I got in the habit, like at least once a month, of getting my nails done. And the first like week of, like, probably the first month of pandemic, I was sewing masks. I probably sewed 200 masks. So my hands were just mangled. There was like band-aids. Do you know what I mean? They were
Yeah.
dry
Yeah.
from washing them. They were terrible. My
Yeah.
nails were super short. I was gnawing them from worry. Like,
Yeah.
everything was dry. It was terrible. And so this just happened like in the last couple weeks.
Okay. Well, they look
Yeah.
fabulous.
Oh, thanks. I'm a professional, not giving a fuck nail person. So they just
Mine
grow.
do not look that way, as you can see.
Okay. I can't tell. They look
Uh,
fine. There's a little bit past the end, and
yeah, but
they're
they're
rounded.
jagged. I literally just like chopped them off a couple days ago because I was like, they're getting
Yeah,
too
I
long.
can't have jagged. I don't want long and fancy, but they can't catch on anything. That's insane. Can't do that. No.
Yeah.
So, any final words on The Sun Also Rises?
I think final words are,
I mean, it may take a while. Let yourself go.
I don't know. I would honestly, I would just say that it was really fun that to kind of spontaneously pick it back up today and dive back into it. And it was fun to remember the different times in the last decade or so that this book has come up and um, just, yeah, rereading it and being reminded of like, oh yeah, it's like I want to bash him over the head for using so many wases and had beens and have beens and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah,
when you consider it that it was almost 100 years ago, it's incredible. It's an incredible piece of work. So that was really fun.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And the thing I would like to recognize, I guess, is that there is something profound about capturing something in its plain human form really completely that's artistic. Like, just why do famous painters just like paint an apple sitting on the counter?
right.
It's because they recognize that everything about that is a miracle. Everything about like the fact that this apple exists, that we can eat it, that it ripens, like they recognize that they must paint it, or they must paint like a sleeping child, or they
Yeah,
must paint like whatever. Capturing like humans being human and just shining the light on it is a relevant artistic endeavor.
yeah, it is.
And
It's going strong. It's definitely still going strong, and it's
it's
just
going
it.
strong.
Yeah, and people are still excited by that.
Yeah, and do you know what I mean? Like simple food made wonderfully with great ingredients.
Yeah,
Like someone
yeah,
who is beautiful without being fancy.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
someone
yeah,
like I think about I was telling my friends, well, I was telling you earlier about the little crew that I hang out with when I trim and how interesting they all are.
yeah,
And my desire to like capture us is like
yeah,
it's like this is so interesting to me because of just how strange and pinball-y and unplanned
yeah,
it is. Like he's from here doing this thing, and how did we cross paths? And
yeah,
he's from here doing that thing, and how did we cross paths? And it's not, there's
yeah,
nothing boring about it,
yeah,
but it's pretty just mundane. It's just like my mind being curious about it.
yeah,
So I'm all about
yeah.
that, capturing that thing. And I think we should go out with Rhapsody in Blue, but a little bit further in
Cool.
because it's so beautiful. And I'm so glad we did this. So this, I think, will be our first um, YouTube.
Wow.
I think if I can
Cool.
get it to work. So fingers crossed. And then we've got all these wonderful things coming up, and I can't wait to have Chef Gigi and Ryan Basor and who else? I feel like, oh my God, Amy Carter, the woman who
Yeah.
is writing about her son.
Oh, that's gonna be
Like,
amazing.
if you want to be on the show with me and Jillian with the weird seven
Yeah,
swans
I gotta do
shit, that's
that. Yeah, I gotta do that.
Monday. That's Monday. We're gonna do it
Monday.
Monday.
Fuck.
Right.
Monday.
No, no,
Okay.
no, no. It's like a page. It's a page to read.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
easy. It's easy.
Okay.
So anyway, this is Reads and Weeds impromptu show. Maybe one of my favorite shows ever.
Ooh, no shit.
Don't you think?
It was good.
It was
Yeah.
spontaneous. It was fun.
Yeah, yeah, it was
We
good.
discussed the shit out of everything. You've got a
We
T-shirt
did
that
pretty
says
good. We were pretty
dragons.
focused. Yeah.
Yeah.
We mostly stayed on topic.
I forgot about the waves and things in my
She's
ears.
hearing. Yeah.
And all this, and now we're going to listen to Gershwin, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing, and we love all the Reads and Weeds listeners, and we love people that smoke weed and read books and find their own curiosity, I guess. And we'll talk to you again real soon. All right, bye, Kris.
Bye.
song is so good.
It's from a movie, right?
Well, I'm sure they made a movie about it.
Oh, sad.
George.
Wow. Wow.
Oh my God.